We've been hearing reports all the way back to the beginning of last year in 2020 as to the relocation into Florida. One of the big questions that comes out is, should I rent or should I buy when moving to Florida? We're going to talk about that next. Hey everybody, my name's Craig Cunha. I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. And if you're looking for a channel that will tell you more about what it's like to live, play, eat, sleep, and buy real estate on the Gulf Coast, then this is the channel for you. So go ahead and subscribe and even comment so that you're sure to see each video as it comes out. I'm getting calls, texts, and emails from people every single day asking me questions about moving to the area and what they can expect. So if you've got a question that you want an answer to, you've got to call, text, or email because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast. Today we're going to talk about whether you should rent or buy when moving to Florida. It's the year 2021. Things are still trying to get to a normal state, and people are finding, you know what, if I'm going to work remotely or if I have a choice of where I want to live, Florida seems to be a pretty good option. So we're seeing a lot of folks coming down. As of last year, we were getting 950 people a day relocating to our area. That's not changed. The real estate market is absolutely on fire. So if you're considering this, we're going to discuss which way you should possibly go, rent or buy. Couple questions you have to ask yourself. Have you ever been to Florida? How long have you been there? Were you just hearing stories from your brothers, mothers, friends, best friend, sister? Or experiences of people that you know firsthand that you might find a little more credible? Obviously, the first and best way to do this is to visit the area yourself, get a feel for it, find out if it's something that fits you. There is a difference between the living vibe and the vacation vibe because Florida is famous for obviously vacationing, and you don't want to make a living situation based upon that constant party and beach time and laying out in the sun because it won't be all that. You're still going to have to work in most cases. So when you did visit, how long were you here for? What was the purpose of that visit? What was the time of year you were here? What's the commitment from you? What level of commitment are you at to stay here? Because if you're not motivated to stay here and a couple bad things happen, whether it's the temperatures, whether it's a neighbor you don't like, a situation you ran into when you were out and about, those are things that can turn you sour on an area if you're not committed to making the change. Do you have to relocate for work? Are you retiring or maybe a snowbird? Where do you want to live? Why do you want to live there? Are you looking for single family or condo? Those are many of the questions you have to ask yourself because they are going to pop up. These are all decisions that need to be made. You might even have a family, so you have to consider schools as well, or even medical care. So let's just jump into a couple of those topics, find out which avenue may be best for you, and kind of address where the market is right now and where it's going with housing. One of the first things you have to consider is availability of the housing. Is there a rental available that would be good for you? Is it at a price that would be affordable? Do you have jobs in place that the landlord can say, hey, this person's getting paid so they can pay me? Those are all things you need to consider. They're also going to be looking at your credit report, your background history. All those things need to be in check. They may ask for references, and in most cases, they're going to ask for first, last, and security deposit. So your initial investment could turn out to be thousands of dollars. Are you prepared for that? Buying isn't really much different in that regard because availability is still going to be an issue right now. We're finding that many of the good homes are not on the market for very long before they leave the market sold. Once again, do you have the money for a deposit? At least 3.5% if you're doing FHA. If you're doing conventional, it's going to be 5%. They're also going to be looking at your job history. Do you have a job currently here? Do you have to get a job, and is it similar to what you did when you left home? What kind of assets or funds are you working with? Now, one of the benefits of looking down the buying option is with the rates where they currently are. We're still seeing many rates that are below 3% if you're doing a shorter term loan, but in most cases you're still in the threes, and that's still historic lows. So if you want to secure one of those on your property and you're going to be there for a number of years, that could be a savings of thousands of dollars over that time period. Now, if you rent, obviously we can't tell when these rates are going to change. You'll be able to feel out the area and decide if it's for you, but you're going to be losing out on potentially on those rates, so that when you are ready to purchase, you may be paying more money once that rate changes. And we have to talk about stability between buying and renting. If you have a family and you're going to be going to schools, and maybe you have chosen a place that you're going to live that's near work, you have a stable place when you buy. That's the house that you're in. That's the one that you're going to be taking care of. That nobody's going to come and tell you have to move unless you're not paying the bills. But let's just assume you're paying the bills. You can stay there as long as you want. So that's going to give you a stable foundation of where to be. In a renting situation, you may not have a choice. Many landlords these days are choosing to sell their properties in the middle of a tenant's lease. Now, in most cases, that lease has to be honored, so you're not going to be removed immediately. However, you're not going to get a new lease because that new owner may want to use it themselves, or they may want to do short-term leases. We have a lot of VRBO and Airbnb homes here, so you aren't going to have the stability that you may find if you buy a home. Another thing to consider if you are going to rent, you don't have to rent for a full year. You don't have to rent for 6 months. In many cases, you don't even have to rent for a month. If you do VRBO or Airbnb, you can take a couple weeks just to get acquainted and acclimated to the area to see. And if you just say to yourself, this is exactly what we've been looking for, there's no need to sign a long-term lease. Just keep it on a short-term basis. Use it as long as you need to get through the building process or through the property acquisition process. And normally that's 30 to 45 days if you're using a lender. It can be as short as 2 or 3 weeks if you're paying cash, because then it's just a matter of passing through the title company and making sure there's no liens on the property. One area of careful consideration if you're going to be looking at a short-term rental is the time of year you're coming. If you come during what's considered our season, which can vary anywhere from latter part of November or December in through April, it's normally over by the end of April. If you come during those times, that's still considered seasonal rates, and you may end up paying double or triple the normal rate depending on the type of home you secure. The home itself, you may want to make changes to it. Well, if you buy the house, you can change anything you want as long as it fits the code of the city compliance and you don't do anything crazy that stands out. But you can do pretty much anything to your home. Add a pool, put a shed in the property, yes, even store boats to the back, change the colors. You can add structures to the home. So there's many things you can do. In a renting situation, it's rare to be able to change anything. You may be able to do color changes with the landlord's permission. He may even let you put in some shelving and things of that sort. But once again, it's not your decision, it's the landlord's. If this is a work relocation and you're not sure how long you're going to be here, renting may be the best option in that case. Again, shorter term job prospects, there's no point in buying a home and having to turn around and sell it right away. In most cases, you're not going to have enough equity in the home to make that worth your while. You'll probably spend more than you'll make in that situation. So look at how long that job is supposed to be for. Short-term relocation is one reason you may want to consider renting. We touched on the requirements for both renting and buying as far as money and credit scores. You're going to want to have strong credit scores in both cases if possible. That would be mid 600s and up. You definitely want to be in the 600s to stand on solid ground, and try to save enough funds where you can cover yourself for a number of months, because both a lender and a landlord are going to want to know that they're going to get paid. Responsibility is another reason why a lot of people started renting, because they don't want the responsibility of taking care of a home. So yes, the buying option, you will be responsible for all the maintenance on the property, all the way down to cutting the grass. Yes, you can hire. There's plenty of landscapers here that'll do it for you. Same thing with the pool companies if you don't want to maintain your pool. But painting of the home on a regular basis. If you have any cracks in the stucco, make sure you seal that before it gets painted. You're going to be taking care of the AC, the filter changes, flushing out the system. So there's going to be a lot of different things you're going to be doing along the way. If you're a tenant and you're renting, if anything goes wrong, you call the landlord. Say, hey, I got a problem. Sink's backed up. The disposal stopped working. So you just pass that off on the landlord. That is a benefit of renting. A big thing that I'm seeing lately is pets. Many people have their little furry friends. It's part of the family. They're not leaving them behind. They're going to bring them. Well, any pet can at times keep you from getting a rental. They get to make that decision. It's their home. Your dog or cat might be perfectly behaved, but there's a perception that those animals could create damage or odors within a property that a landlord just doesn't want to deal with. So if you know you have a furry friend that you aren't leaving behind and you don't want to run the risk of potentially not finding rentals due to that, you may want to consider the buying route. Because then, once again, there are no rules. And the only time that you'll have any type of a rule regarding mostly dogs is the size and breed if it's in a gated community. Only gated communities. Subdivisions don't have those rules. So if you're somebody that has a pit bull, German shepherd, Rottweiler, dogs like that, you may want to consider subdivisions so that you can avoid the hassles of the HOAs. Another thing you don't always have a choice in if you are renting is guests. Are you allowed to have guests? Do they have to be family members? How many guests can I have? How's the parking for those guests going to work? Those are all things that can be problematic when you're renting. However, if you buy, again, if you're in a subdivision, none of those rules apply to you. You can have as many guests as you want, whenever you want. They can park pretty much wherever. If you're in a gated community, keep in mind parking requirements. Most times the vehicles have to stay in the driveway. If you have them on the street and it blocks the street, you could potentially be towed. I know, it happened to me before. Didn't really plan on it happening this way, but I left the truck out in the street at the end of the evening, and because emergency vehicles can't get through some of these roadways, I woke up to my vehicle being gone. At first I thought it was stolen, but found out that no, it just got towed. So avoid those kinds of issues. If you do not want to have to deal with them, own in a subdivision. The last thing to discuss about buying versus renting, and this just comes down to the common sense aspect of kind of a built-in forced savings plan, is you're building equity every time you make a payment. And you can make additional payments, obviously, to just reduce the principal along the way, and it's a forced savings account. So if you're looking to build equity, this right now is a crazy market. Prices are going up monthly. A lot of local builders are going up $10,000 and $15,000 a month to try and slow the building process. So if that's something that you would be interested in, buying may be the best option for you. If you've learned anything from this video and want to learn more about what it's like to live in the Fort Myers, Cape Coral, or Southwest Florida areas, go ahead and check out one of the other videos. And if you have a question for me, you've got to call, text, or email, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.